104.7 The Job. We are Denver's Urban Alternative. Good morning, Sugar Bear Lamali. It is time for a Community Corner. Our very special guest today. We are excited. I mean, like super excited because the light is shining in the room, and I believe she's excited too. Their name is Dani Lemaster, which is the owner and creator and founder of AUHD Times. Good morning.
Good morning.
Let's bring that microphone up to you just a little bit closer.
Come on, let's get in here.
Get in there.
Good morning, loves.
It is a pleasure to have you here.
I'm so grateful to be here. For real, I'm like freaking out right now. You can't see it, but I'm stimming.
I love that. Let's get it. This, a.k.a. Dani Baby, by the way. Let's say
indeed.
that. That
Dani
is
Baby is... That's just, I work real hard for that name.
Yeah, and I love your videos when you're dancing, when you're just
that's
vibing. Oh, that's the best thing.
Yeah.
We love that.
you, Fred.
Okay, so let's talk about you a little bit. Let's get our people, our audience acquainted with you. Who is Dani Baby?
Dani Baby is many things,
Okay.
many versions, many childlike essences that needed to remain curious in their healing. Dani Baby is somebody that finally sees themselves as themselves, continuing to become. And again, in that curiosity realm, I think that we lose a lot of our curiosity and the wonderment of discovering more about ourselves. We get told who we are, and we sit in a space of that preconceived notion based on what somebody else told us about ourselves versus tuning in and allowing all these versions to shine and be nurtured. And a lot of that just occurs, you know, in the healing journey, but with community being a reflection. So
Yeah, I love that. And that starts early on too. If you're as a kid or as a parent showing that to your kids that they're not what they tell you you are. You are who you are. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Okay, so let's get into, as I mentioned, founder of AUHD Times, which is a creative platform empowering autistic and neurodivergent individuals through self-expression. Can you expound on that? What does that mean? And first and foremost, explain to our audience what neurodivergent is.
All right. I'll try to make this a synopsis, if you will.
Okay.
So AUHD Times, AUHD, is coming from autism and ADHD. I arrived at this information about myself just a few years ago. I don't like to say late to the game. It was when I was prepared to receive it.
Sure.
So I'm not a late bloomer. It's just when I had the capacity to understand myself as such. And the more I understood, the more that I had like a definition to it, it was very clarifying to like understand that the neurotypical world that we exist in, again, that preconceived notion of you are what we told you are, and you just believe it forever, that's crazy. I just didn't know that there was thinking like that out there. So recognizing that like, oh, my brain works in a different way, how I take in information, how I process information, how I think about the information I have, and just the loops that we can go on, and recognizing that everything is a spectrum, including our brains and neurodivergence. You know, that spectrum is really beautiful. And I don't like to say that there's a severe side. There's just a less understood side. There's learning abilities here that we haven't tapped into when we're only living in, 2 and 3D, there's 4 and 5D. And there are people with those brains tapping in there. And so also knowing that I did a lot of communicating in body language, that was really affirming to me. And so again, with how we communicate as a society, neurodivergent folks and their intuition and their understanding around pattern recognition is a big deal. And we need that. We need to nourish that. We need to nurture that. And I think we just have a better ability of detecting it now than we ever have. And so communities are able to find each other more, but we also still need to find that safety in ourselves to know that there are people and places that we can feel safe around, but there's just not a ton of exposure on that quite yet.
Got it.
Yeah, and that's actually where I wanted to go, is because just talking about how you're finding nurturing now, or like giving yourself maybe what you were missing in your childhood. I'm listening to this podcast about the troubled teen industry, and a lot of the people that ended up being placed in these, they just were a little neurodivergent. They had ADHD or autism, that's it. And they just needed someone to understand that. So can you talk about how you are finding those pathways and helping create them for other people?
Oh my Gosh. I think in essence that I kind of forget that I'm, if you will, creating it for other people. I'm literally creating it for myself.
For yourself, yeah.
One of my dearest platonic loves, Marina, is my curandera. She's a healer. And one of the most powerful things that she guided me on was, you don't just go sit with your younger self in a room. You can literally go in there, take their hand, and pull them out of that room. And so I think, in essence, that's what a lot of my healing has been, a lot of my attention around that. It was just the curiosity of not knowing that neurodivergence was my brain at the time or my spirit at the time. And now I get to go back to those versions of myself and move out of the cyclical way that was existing and work through that there, So healing that part or working through that and understanding that, there aren't safe spaces. I think that we get caught up in saying, oh, we create safe spaces. That's up for a person to decide if it's safe. So are you a safe space? Are you a safe person? And then people will decide if they feel that around you. And not everybody is going to feel safe around everyone. That's why we have victims and villains. But I think the most important part about it is that there is a community, that we all, there is a need to find spaces that will aid, brick and mortars that will aid in how we communicate as neurodivergent folks, whether that's like stimming while we're standing and just talking, whether that's like having different like audio processing things going on, ways to create. It was really hard as a young person because I was in the bar scene. And that was like probably the worst thing for my neurodivergent brain. And so then as an adult, now it's like, you know what? I want to make spaces that were like what I would have liked as a young person, but as an adult, because we should always remain curious. If you're not curious, then like, what are you thinking about?
Good question. Think about that for a second. Yeah.
Okay, you mentioned stimming, and that's something I wanted to talk about because I don't know if everyone is exposed to like what that is.
Absolutely. You
post a lot of videos of yourself stimming, which are so beautiful to watch. So can you just talk a little bit about what that is and how Odd Times fosters that?
I love that. Thank you. So stimming is like, I guess, when I was growing up, I fidgeted a lot. I was told that I fidget. I was like constantly in detention. I was constantly, just doing something that was disrupting others, but was helping me learn. Right. But everybody else was disrupted. So, lo and behold, I found out later that a lot of these fidgets were actually stimming, which is a self-soothing and co-regulation that we use as autistic folks. Speaking a lot with our hands, and I have a lot of vocal stimming, where I'm just like humming, singing, screaming, going into accents, mimicking another person because that comes out in a vocal stim. Honor's next to me, and he knows. He got some of that this morning preparing for this. So stimming is, just allowing your body language to move. And I think it's scary to do, right? Because, I want to give some honor to Elijah McCain, who absolutely suffered being autistic and having a stim and walking and dancing, which was his stimming. Yeah. And that's absolutely devastating and will continue to happen because there isn't enough awareness around it. So I really appreciate you asking that. In order for me to operate and fully function, I have to be able to move. And if I can't leave a desk for every 10, 15 minutes, then my thoughts become so jumbled that I'm become masking. So you're getting the watered down, I just want you to feel okay with my presence being around version of myself, versus if I'm stimming and I get to move and I get to just express, let my body language exist, whether it comes through in dancing, whether it comes through in just some like little ticks or fidgeting with my leg or twirling my hair. It's a necessity for me to navigate this planetary existence. Yes. It's a language for us.
Love that.
Yeah.
Okay, Sugar Bear Lamali, we are speaking with Dani Baby. Steve's here. This is the founder of AUHD Times. This is amazing. Now, I want to ask about some of the things you provide at AUHD Times, for especially our listeners out here, our parents. who may have children who are like fidgety and they do things, how would they find you, and what are some of the things that you offer there?
Okay. So we are, growing in a really profound way, finding brick and mortar community spaces that give us the ability and time, we as vessels being time, to be around other neurodivergent folks. And so we have something that we've been working on called Odd Spaces. We've partnered with Denver Community Media, and they give us a night every couple of months with choose a day, and anyone is welcome to come. It's a live set where I'm interviewing folks that feel like they would like to interview or vocal stim with me on the mic. And then behind us is, a stimming stations, if you will. So folks can, dance in a corner, try on, they can play dress up, they can sew, they can create art, they could just have side conversations or just observe, because our language is simply sometimes just wanting to be there but not having to contribute vocally. And a lot of spaces, there isn't a lot of that awareness. Like, I want to be part of something, but I don't want to talk. I want to be nonverbal. And I think that a lot of angst happens in our fidget when we can't be in a space that just allows us to not be verbal, because that is a form of communication. And so bringing more awareness around that, as well as just knowing that I don't have children, okay? However, I am a nurturer in the community. I have a lot of nibblings, which is less gendered way of calling babies, male or female. So I have nibblings. I have, really good friends in the community that I've been around since their babies were born. And it's, profound to watch them develop, but they need representation. Yeah. Little ones need to know that it's okay to twirl in the corner and library scream. Like, I'm going to do it right now.
I love it.
So in order to find us, you can go to oddtimes.com, which is AUHD.com, or you can find us on any platform under Odd Times, which is AUHD Times. On Insta, not super active on TikTok, but slowly building that as well on YouTube with our podcast.
Cool.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, yeah, I just wanted to say it's such a joy to watch the community that you've built, even from afar. That's right. You guys do everything from fashion to, isn't there a magazine, photography? It's just so cool. And it feels very intimate, even though it's through a screen.
Thank you.
I don't know how you figured out how to do that,
yes.
But good job.
Intimate is a great word, yeah.
Thank you so much. I have really beautiful folks here. I need to just say how grateful I am for Honor next to me. He is the owner, curator, and creator of NQ. We'll get you those details here soon, but just a brilliant soul. I met him a little bit over a year ago, and I just remember, I pointed and I was like, "You're going to be my friend." That's just kind of how that's going to go. And just now we're here, and we always talk about how we're in these parallels of remember that. And to be here and witnessing us in this essence growing together alongside each other, encouraging each other, really has been super validating, and to have somebody that's willing to capture the chaos, if you want to call it chaos, to just capture what it is to continue becoming. He doesn't, there's something that one of our teachers says, is that he doesn't take a photo, he makes a photo. And he's just watching him grow from where we were is just really amazing. So just want to say thank you.
That's awesome. Thank you both for being here. Okay, because we still got to talk more, and there's a lot of questions I want to ask. The fashion part of what you do, you've created, what you have on today is what you've created.
Yes, indeed.
How does that play a part into what you do at all times, and how important it is to create in that way?
Oh my gosh. Okay, I'm ready to talk about it. So a couple of years ago, I went through a very life-shifting realization that I was in a cycle of not loving myself. And as a neurodivergent person, we get super excited when we meet people, no matter what unionship that is. I have a lot of platonic loves in the world, but I was trying really hard to be in relationships and in unionships that just weren't, it was difficult, and it really gave me a reflection point on where I needed to figure out where I wanted to grow to, which was in love with myself. And so in essence, that's what Odd Times began as, is self-love back to every different part of myself, the abandonment and how complicit I had been in, breaking my own heart by allowing boundaries to be crossed and things like that, So I was like, I need to just pour in. So the design that is on a lot of my garments, which is a flower that I put on the back, there is 6 visible petals, and then there's a 7th that is purposely invisible, but it's over your heart space. And that is, like, in essence, the whole I love me not. It's the I love me part on your heart. And it's the 7th petal, which is completion. And in essence, if we were to all make ourselves our own primary partner, we'd all be polyamorous. That's another conversation.
That's a whole nother,
Anyway, that just gives us more ability to community love, and kind of re-indigenize love, if you will.
Sure.
And so then all of the materials that are on the back, they've been sourced into other garments connecting us all. So it's just kind of like this fun little way of, like, sometimes I see my own flower out in the community and I cry, and I'm like, I remember making that garment,
That's beautiful.
So that's in essence where it all started, giving honor to my neurodivergent brain, and also just like that I want to feel comfortable. And for a non-binary person, a lot of fashion is very... I want to give some honor to Jameson, who taught me that it's not genderless, it's genderful. So you get to decide what it's going to be. And I was like, I want to set in them and decide at that moment. And that's why I was like, I'm going to make these garments that are just going to be... Little Dani wouldn't even know what to do right now. I'll tell you that.
Wow, that's incredible.
Even just like how a lot of your garments are thrifted and you're repurposing things, it is like that connection between past, present, and future all in one.
Yes, it is. Thank you, so friend.
Cool. For a person who's like, because like my cousin has just like kind of self-diagnosed, right, as autistic in her 40s. And I know that there's a lot of people that are like kind of discovering as we get a little more socially conscious of neurodivergence. What would you say to someone who's sort of like questioning or like, I don't feel like everybody else,
Yeah.
I'd say that self-diagnosis in this case a lot of times is valid, simply because if you're even wondering, that means that your brain is firing in a synopsis of like, I feel like language is understood over here. Yeah. Someone I know is this, and I understand them. And then I get around folks that maybe don't exhibit those same characteristics, and I don't feel as seen and heard, right? Because it's another language portion. There is a lot of resource out there in the neurodivergent community. It's just not super seen. It's very accessible when you get there. Just the language around it, being able to talk and communicate, because again, it's easier to detect now, if you will. And then there was a hype time of it. It was so buzzy, once COVID happened, and then everybody was at home and they're like, I'm neurodivergent because I have to sit with myself now, and that exposed a lot of things. So it became very buzzworthy. But I always suggest finding a support system within, whether it's therapy, family, or some sort of counseling service that will help you, guide you within that spectrum, versus just saying that that's what you are. Being curious about diagnosis is absolutely the way, in my opinion, and how I went. It's the best way to go. You don't have to put yourself in a box. Just know that it's a spectrum, and you get to just find out for yourself, So I would say self-diagnosis, it can be very validating, but to give yourself just the comfort of your knowing and knowing your knowing, absolutely consult with other folks.
We just had someone text in about, please tell us the website. So give us 1 second. I want you to get to that. One last question before we get out of here. Your mental health. You mentioned therapy. How important is it to you? And have you had any? And how's your mental health? How are you doing?
Absolutely. So I would just say that therapy is very, very important. And some of us don't have access to therapy. And so I don't want anyone feeling, like, wow, I don't have access to this. Then, therapy can be many things.
Yeah.
Therapy can be a walk. I take a soul stroll every day. Therapy is a walk. Being in communion with, with your family, with your friends, letting the community know so that they understand, if you are needing a moment or some space. And we all are very attuned here. So it's like, I could tell if somebody's going through something, like just that simple gesture, Our folks are therapy. But if you do have the ability and the resources, which I am still trying to find a lot more to give to community and build that, it's really beneficial because you get an hour for yourself, an hour or two, however you need. You get that for you. And you don't always have to think about going in and speaking to someone. Go speak to yourself because that hour is yours.
That's huge.
Yeah,
We're so scared about what our therapists are going to think. It doesn't matter. You are time, and that hour is yours. So use it for you.
Or 2 hours, whatever it is.
Exactly.
Yeah. I love that. Okay, you are listening to Dani Lemaster. They are the founder of AUHD Times. Let's give them all the pertinent information. Where can they go to go to the website, your social media, so on and so forth? We have some curious people out there. Let's give it to them.
Yes, you can find us at auhdtimes.com, and that is AUHD Times, TIMES.com, and it's the same across the board on any platform.
Okay.
Yeah, we tried to keep it simple.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
Dani Baby, you are a light.
Oh my God.
Thank you for what you do in this community and with how you're serving this community. We can't praise you enough and give you a platform. This is a home for you anytime you need to. Come here. We got you.
Thank you so much, friend. I'm just like overwhelmed in my joy right now, been completely enhanced, and I'm going to go scream about it on the rooftop.
I love that.
I'm gonna
We do
join
have
you.
a cool rooftop.
Literally going to go do that right now.
Community Corner, man, another one. Make sure you look for this on our YouTube page and on our Instagram at The Drop 303. It's 1047 The Drop.